Industries Committee to order. There's an old rule in country courthouses in Georgia called the 3-minute rule, that the courts, the judges will have a little mercy on you as long as you're no longer than 3 minutes late. After that, you can be held in contempt. But we have a quorum today. I expect we'll have other members that'll mosey in here shortly. I hope so anyways. And our main purpose today is just to introduce the members to the viewing public and the audience here today, and to adopt rules for this biennial. I have put in everybody's folders the rules, which are identical to those that we had last year. You'll notice they call for a 6-person quorum. We have 11 members of the committee and a couple of ex officios, so there's 13 of us. And I would, I guess, make it clear to the Committee on Assignment members here that we don't need any more. This is a great committee. A lot of veterans serving on this committee. All but 2 members of the committee served on here for the last 2 years. We've got a couple of new additions that'll be valuable to us. We're replacing Butch Miller and our esteemed Rules Chairman, Jeff Mullis, who have both retired from the Senate and from this committee. I'll tell you just a couple things while the members are having a chance to digest these rules, review them, make sure there's no questions. First of all, they're the same as they were last year, identical rules. We do adhere to them pretty closely. In particular, I like to make sure if there are going to be any proposed committee subs or amendments that they be presented to me at least 24 hours in advance so we can digest them and consider them. And I will usually put them in the folders or disseminate them amongst the committee members. I think that's good. That's valuable for a fair evaluation of the different issues before us and deliberation of those issues. Those of you that track us to some degree will know that I try not to surprise people. I try very hard to let you know in advance what to anticipate's coming in the upcoming meetings as we're going forward, to give you time to read the bills before we get here, and to give you plenty of time as the lobbyists to lobby all of us on any issues that you want. I have an open door policy in my office, and welcome anybody that has an issue they want to talk to me about, any member of the legislature, any member of this committee, any lobbyist, any constituent. We have times gaps that Cindy West is my administrative assistant, keeps my schedule, tries to do it in 15-minute increments, but I welcome input from all of you, and so that's don't want you to feel intimidated or hesitate in any way to come plead your case. Let me know where you stand and why issues are important to you. I thought I would introduce our staff before we get going, while you guys are looking at these rules that are really not too complicated at all. As I mentioned, Cindy, will you stand up? Let them make sure. I'm sure everybody probably knows Cindy West. She has been an administrative assistant for 20 years here in the Capitol, one of the most experienced that we have. Give you a little context. She has served for 6 different senators in her career. Hugh Gillis was one of her first senators that she trained him up in the Senate. George Hooks, one of my all-time favorites. She took care of George, still hears from him. And, of course, the Dean of the Senate, Ed Harbison, has graciously let me share his suite for the last 2 years, and we have become fast friends and a real example of bipartisanship in action. So, and Cindy takes care of both of us all the time. Seems like she's got her hands full. Alex Hurd is, if you'll stand up, Alex, let them see you, is our intern this year. So he's assigned to our committee, and he'll be there in our office at 432 and available if you need anything. He'll be taking good care of us. And we have the rock star from Legislative Council, Sean Marie Story, the hardest working attorney in Legislative Council's office, has been known to go days without sleep and to draft multiple bills at the same time. And Nick Tate, I guess you're our newest member of Legislative Council's office. Good to have you. You'll be assisting her. Sean Marie staffs our committee and is always available to help any member of the committee if you need to draft an amendment or bill or whatever that you want to do. Mary Atkins, Mary, will you stand up for us too? Brand new addition to Senate Research Office, an attorney that will be staffed our committee and helping us along the way. Good to have you with us this year. I've already given her a couple of fun little assignments. And Rachel, will you stand up? Senate Press Office. She staffs every meeting for us, and just for you to know, some of you may be watching from home. All of our meetings are live streamed. They'll be televised if you're not here. Sometimes folks will watch from the hall. Sometimes people will watch from home. It's fascinating to me how we've only done this the last few years, how many people make comments. I saw such and such in front of your committee, or so-and-so that testified. People do take advantage of that to follow the legislative process. All of our deliberations are open. Anybody is welcome to testify on any issue that we hear before us in this committee. Is that all my staff? If I got everybody introduced, we're going to deal with these rules, and then I'm going to introduce you to the committee. I tell you that we have a veteran committee here, some very savvy legislators, experienced legislators that have been around, and because of the continuity on this committee, we have folks that are very knowledgeable about the issues that typically come before this committee, and I think that makes us a strong deliberative body. I'm going to give a brief introduction of each of my members in a minute. I've already got Senate Press. Hope y'all got your good coats and ties and dresses on today. Going to zoom in on you and let the folks at home see who you are before we get through. Has everybody had a chance to review the rules? They're very, very standard, but if there are any questions or any comments about the rules, now be your chance to ask about those. Committee meetings this year, we do have our schedule. We'll be meeting at 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoons, and there's nobody that meets after us in this room. I don't think there are any other committees meeting after 4 o'clock on Tuesdays. Those of you that watch us realize a lot of these issues are extraordinarily complex and just take a lot of time to sort of whittle down the bone a little bit there and understand fully the issues. So on Tuesday afternoons, we may go long if necessary to let everybody be heard and for us to completely, fully deliberate. We also meet on Thursdays at 3 o'clock, and that's going to be a little wrong?
She says 2.
2 o'clock. On Thursdays, there are meetings that follow us. In fact, I think Judiciary Committee, me and Pro Tem will be leaving to go to. So that'll be a pretty finite 1 hour time on Thursday afternoons. Come on in, Senator Ginn. Good to have you with us.
Apologize for being late.
All right, that's all right. Any questions on the rules? All right, well then,
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any reason we shouldn't make a motion, we approve these rules.
all right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on the rules? All right, let's vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, note that passes unanimously. This committee, I was making some notes the other day of the issues we've dealt with in the last couple of years, and I can't find one that's more interesting than the things we deal with. Recently, we've spent a lot of times dealing with the electric vehicles. How are we going to charge these vehicles? You know, something that none of us really knew anything about till a couple of years ago. Now I feel like particularly several of us that served on the study committee know an awful lot about that, and I feel strongly that we have the opportunity to sort of develop the ground rules, the architecture, so to speak, about how we are going to deliver electric power to vehicles in the future here in the state of Georgia. I'm excited for us to have a chance to be involved in that, to get it right early, and we're going to be careful to learn those issues and not make fatal mistakes early, things that you can't undo down the road. So we will spend some time, and I anticipate we'll have legislation there. We've dealt with things as different as certificate of need in the healthcare delivery system came through this committee. Bills about the ticketing system for sporting and events and concerts. We had some funeral home bills that came through for a while and learned how to cremate bodies with acid in a vat. So just to give you a variety here, naturally, broadband expansion came through this committee. All the alcohol issues come through here. Gambling issues come through this committee. And it's just a myriad of other professions that are regulated that will have different issues that we look at. Senator Brass, question?
Mr. Chairman.
Did I leave anything dear to your heart
We
out?
had one that was dear to my heart, and then I'll always remember was the parlors where the fish eat the feet.
That is true. The massage parlors, sometimes we had to watch and make sure how they gave these little foot baths there with the minnows in them. And we've dealt with medical marijuana in this committee. We've dealt with just many complex issues that are quite entertaining and interesting to us. So I thought you might want to know some of the personnel that are handling these issues before our committee. And we'll start with some of our more distinguished members of this committee. And to my left, your right, is our secretary, who is John Francis Kennedy. Flanders Kennedy. Francis was your great uncle, the ex-president. Yeah. So JFK, as we affectionately call him, is our president pro tem, and John is I would say a rising political star in the state, but I think he's already arrived in this position and got a bright future still ahead of us. Very diligent legislator, understands details. He's an attorney, educated at Mercer University. You probably read in the AJC he really enjoys a good junket, a good trip every now and then, and he's one of the more well-traveled members of this committee, being to many organizational person. He's been in a lot of organizations that he is learning how other states handle some of these issues for us. So we're fortunate to have him with us. He's serving in the same role he did last year. As secretary, he takes very copious, extensive notes. You'll see him writing sometimes, and he makes sure we get it right. His empty chair over here is our majority leader, Steve Gooch. All of y'all know Senator Gooch, our majority leader, from a lot of his work that he did. He was the godfather of broadband expansion, and he knows as much about that as anybody in this room, more than likely. Of course, it was all for Mama Gooch. He wanted to make sure he got her enough broadband so his kids could play their video games when they were visiting Grandma. And we're trying to get him there. I think we're making tremendous progress on that front. He was a sole commissioner. Now, how many of you ever lived in a county where there was one county commissioner? They used to call him the boss back home. So, yeah, that was because he was it. There was only one commissioner. Now we call him the leader. So he thinks he's gonna boss us all around on this committee. We'll see how that goes. But he is certainly, we're honored to have him here, and as a member of the Committee on Assignments, he'll help steer, along with Senator Kennedy and Senator Dolezal, what bills we're able to hear in this committee. Kind of leaning towards, we are bipartisan, you'll notice in this committee, and very few of our issues really are partisan in any way. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a Democratic or Republican to solve these kind of problems, and we don't bicker that way. But we're fortunate to have my dear friend, the Dean of the Senate, Ed Harbison, here with us. Been serving for 30 years, hails from Columbus, Georgia. We got a lot of military experience on this committee. He will tell you right now he was not in the Army, the U.S. Marine Corps, Semper Fi, served 4 tours of duty in Vietnam, 3 in Vietnam, 4 years. Got a Purple Heart and is a tough hombre. He's a sergeant, retired. He was one of the more famous radio personalities of our generation. And I used to tease him and say, yeah, they always said, you know, you got that face for radio. Well, he reminded me. He was the first, you can straighten me out now, but he was the first black television host in Columbus, Georgia. So he overcame those handicaps of his looks and was able to prevail. Been doing great. He was. I have studied my committee, and I hope Senate Press is zooming in on that good-looking mug he's got over there, so everybody can kind of learn who else we got here too. Shifting back over here to my left and your right is Senator John Albers. John is the second longest serving Republican in the state Senate. Now he talks faster than most of us. And he hails from upstate New York, I believe, from the old days, and went to school at Louisville University in Kentucky. And you might have heard him talk fondly about his childhood, where his mama, old Miss Albers, loves the ponies, and she would take him to horse races up at Saratoga, at Churchill Downs, and he can tell you, if anybody wants to know the difference in a trifecta and an exacta and a daily double, he's the guy. He'll fix us up there and let you know. He is a hardworking entrepreneur, has started, 19 different businesses in his career. Got more money than he knows what to do with, so he came down here to the Senate to kind of help us out a little bit. And he is the only member of this Senate that has donated an organ to a child, and that was special. So he's a good one to talk to. Got a heart of gold, and he's a very, very hardworking legislator. One of my all-time favorites down here, our minority leader, Gloria Butler. I would have seated her closer to the front, but I deferred to her and said, Madam Leader, where would you like to sit? And she likes to sit down there where people don't get too close to her and she can have a little room. So Senator Rett, be careful, don't encroach on her territory there. She's been serving, believe it or not, I'm telling you, we got experience on this committee. She has been serving for 24 years in the state Senate and serves very ably and tenaciously as the minority leader, and always graciously with respect across the aisle, and we try our best to treat her with the respect she deserves in this committee. And it's a valuable member and a valuable voice. Really proud and glad to have her serving on our committee. I'm missing a couple, and I guess they're subject to abuse by not being here to defend themselves. You might actually get abused if you're here. Some of y'all are figuring out. But David Lucas, old David Sleepy Lucas, is one of our favorite members. And trust me, he may look like he's asleep, but he is listening to everything you say.
Even when he snores.
Even when he snores, it's just a front. But I got him somewhere. We're gonna get him on up here so we can keep the spotlight on him, keep him engaged. But what a entertaining character! And I should save this story until he was here, but it's just priceless and true. I grew up in Macon, where David's from, and when I was a senior in high school, I was in Miss Betty Phillips' political science course. And we had a guest speaker one day, 1976, David Lucas. He was a newly elected state representative, and I'm trying to think how best to describe him, but he either had just won the Masters because he had this gorgeous green leisure suit on, you know. He was either had been in Superfly or something, or he was Jiminy Cricket actor, but he looked really dapper and came and wowed us talking. He told me that was like his first or second year in the legislature. He has served forever, and he's really been here in the Senate just for 10 years, but he served a lot longer in the House, and there's a sneaky rumor out there that he really has served totally as long as Calvin Smyrie, but nobody would admit that because he shifted some time from the House to here. But, you know, we missed some of the days when he ran the bug in Macon, apparently, and I can't remember, but he shared with us last year that, was it Luke's Lounge? He ran a juke joint, and I mean he knows all these vices we control. He is a recording artist, and he has Soul Jam that he does every year in Macon, and it is a true story. I've had a personal witness tell me that back in the day when a lot of them stayed over at the, what do they call it, the Stadium Hotel? He might be the only legislator that ever told James Brown to shut up and get in his room. James Brown got mad at the legislatures, were partying a little hard that night, a little loud, and it came out and said, y'all need to hush up. And he told James Brown, you better get in that room and shut up, or we'll show you who's in charge. So I've always said, if I can't have Ethan tase me again, James on my side in a bar fight, I want David Lucas because I don't have to worry about anything there. He'll be helpful to us. Yeah. Kind of going down my list. Matt Brass. Now this will show you, my new co-pilot, what good training you get as a vice chairman in this committee.
Absolutely.
He is now chairman of Rules Committee. So anything that passes this committee, we know it's good, the skids are greased. We are well on our way to the Senate floor. So let's let the cameras get on him. He might be, like the best looking member of the Senate. That's what he was telling us this morning. And he is a hardworking senator down in Noonan, and he is a ex-golf pro. So if you end up on one of these charity tournaments with him, don't let him sandbag you, because he'll smoke you. He's a good one to have as your teammate. He is also ex-military, Navy. And he's the only one of our military people that was dishonorably discharged, but he is out. And we're still glad to have him on this committee, and he's good. He's good to go. He claims to be a disabled veteran. We hadn't figured the disability yet, but we do appreciate your service in keeping the seas safe for Georgia. That just shows you that you never know people's background. Doc Rett, Senator Doc Rett, is another military man. He is a retired master sergeant in the Air Force, where he served in the Air Force Reserves over 25 years. So I'll tell you what, if we have any military issues coming here, we're well equipped for those. He's been in the Senate 8 years. He's got a doctoral degree from the University of Georgia. What was the subject matter of that? I forget your field of study, Doc. Educational leadership. So when we call him Doc Rett, he really is a doctor. He's also a very talented musician. We've got a recording artist in David Lucas, but he plays tambourine. In fact, you think I'm kidding. We don't make all this stuff up. He has his own tambourine, right or wrong? Yeah, we had the Battle of the Bands a few years ago, and Doc had his little special tambourine in a case, and when he left, we begged him, please leave the tambourine. It was so good we might want to play. He said, this goes with me wherever I travel. So if we ever break out in song, we'll need you to do that for us if you don't mind. I'm missing Tanya Anderson today as well. Tanya is another Air Force veteran. Y'all got to get to know her. She's been in with us for 6 years, Democrat. She went to, is it Alabama State? She was Miss Alabama State University. So she's a beautiful senator, beautiful lady, and a dancer. I believe she was either in the Honeybees dance ensemble there at Alabama State, or at least she's a big-time supporter of them. Just ask her about the Honeybees sometime, and she'll start shaking and jiving a little bit for you, because that's her thing. She loves it. But she's a valuable member. She is a pastor, so no cussing in front of Tanya here. And if we ever start doing invocations, I may call on her. Some of you may have noticed this committee doesn't have a prayer to start every meeting. I mean, I felt like I was, turned into a Muslim or something at one time when we had my prayer rug out. Every hour I'm doing another prayer. Every committee has a prayer, but we get a 20 or 30 minute sermon every morning, invocation, and I feel like that gets our day off to a good start. And we don't tend to pray before every meeting. We might do it on a few of them because we got some serious issues, and we'll know we got Senator Anderson to help us out. Senator, Ms. Leader.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Anderson, beautiful voice.
She has a beautiful singing, so she sings and dances
She's,
and
well,
prays.
she sings. I've never seen her do the dance.
And I will clear the crowd out. I mean, I know there are some concerns. I asked the minority leader the other day, I was curious whether she had converted to Islam, because she had our preacher of the day, and it was mostly in Arabic. And I didn't understand what they were saying, and she had invited them for diversity. And she let me know that she is still a strong Christian here today. And we might let you pray for us one of these days, because we're going to need some prayers. Senator Greg Dolezal.
Sound like my
He
mother.
is my, we'll let you do whatever you want here. He's the boy wonder, wealthy entrepreneur of our committee,
What I tell you about it, Frank?
my political kindred spirit. He is very intelligent, very detail-oriented. He will dig deep on the issues and ask the probing questions. He's also a member of Committee on Assignments. So any of you got bills you're pursuing, you want to make sure they come to this committee, you just corral him and Gooch and Kennedy. They're the majority of the Committee on Assignments. They can either steer bills to us or away from us, but he's one you need, and he is he's got the biggest guns on this committee, I guarantee y'all. You women get to see him working out one day, you'll be scared. It's something else. He spends a lot of time when he's not making money and studying the issues. He's apparently working out. But we're glad to have him, and he'll be another bodyguard if needed as we go. And that brings me to my vice chairman, our rookie, our youngest member in seniority, with 3 years seniority. Vice Chairman Carden Summers, but to show you he must be a superstar to be here, and Vice Chairman after 3 years. He has survived and won 6 elections in 3 years to be sitting here behind us. So I would warn anybody out there at home that is considering running for, what's your district number?
13.
The 13th, the unlucky 13th district, think twice, because you got your hands full with this guy. He is, he's a real estate millionaire, worked for Johnny Isaacson back in the day, and he settled back down there in Cordele on about 1,000 acres. I visited him one time, sat in the rocking chairs on his, Terra, I think you call it, or whatever, some big old huge estate, over 1,000 acres down there, and he's extremely savvy. He knows more about more things than most anybody in this room, and he's going to be a good student and learn, and he's been told that his job is to basically be quiet and vote however I tell him to, and we'll see how he does on that. I left out my wingman, last but not least, Senator Frank Ginn, Madison County, Georgia. Let me just see the best way to say this. He is extraordinarily smart, and I've always told him, and I've warned people, he is not nearly as dumb as he looks. He's my wingman. We share Clark County, Georgia together, and no kidding, this guy knows as much about local government, county governments, city government. He's been city manager, county managers. He's got extraordinarily broad range of knowledge, knows an awful lot about the power industry. What's your heritage of Georgia Power? Your dad with them? I know your brother was for a long time.
Mom, dad, brother.
Everybody in his family's with Georgia Power.
Myself, the gas business, the water, sewer, you name it. We got it. Telecom.
Stockholder.
He's got it going. When he sinks his teeth in an issue, you better get out of the way, because he's going to know it, and he's going to be able to fight like crazy for it. And I think he's a great contributor to this committee. So that's kind of the cast of the Dirty Dozen here, our Dirty 13, our Baker's Dozen on this committee, and we're.
You, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm just a little old country lawyer from Athens, so glad to be here. Love this committee. I've been chairing it for 4 years now, and served 16 years in the state senate. Detailed guy. I love getting into the issues. I've heard people say sometimes they don't want to get cross-examined and testify in front of this committee. We love anybody that can contribute information that we don't know to testify. We will not be ugly to you just long as you're honest with us. Tell us the truth, tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll sort it all out and try to reach the right results, things that make Georgia a better state, that we solve some of these extraordinarily complex issues with our state. I know we got receptions to go to, so before I wrap up, I will, like I say, tell you what's coming. Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock meeting, we're going to have Senator Gooch review the findings of the Electrification of Motor Vehicle Committee, Study Committee. I see my friend Senator Randy Robertson in the back. He served on that. Frank Ginn did, I did, Steve Gooch did. A lot of us spent a lot of time in the off-season studying that entire issue, which is very complex. And we took it up a little bit last year, and the one reason we studied those issues in the off-season is because they are so complex. So we're going to get him to give us a review of what that committee talked about, what their findings were, some of the issues that we may be confronted with this session. Next Tuesday's meeting, same time, same place, same station, same room as we are here today, we're going to have a review of the successes that we've had with broadband expansion. We spent a lot of time the last few years talking about broadband and getting it to rural Georgia, unserved areas, et cetera. Half jokingly tease about our majority leader being the godfather of that subject matter. He had a bill several years ago now where the first thing we did was map the state to find out what areas were served, what were not, who needed broadband connectivity, because it was becoming a very big problem. And it actually has become more significant as we survived the pandemic, because we realized how important internet connectivity is for not only commerce, but for education and also health care, and it's a vital interest. So Steve and I were at the National Conference of State Legislators annual summit last summer in Denver. I'm sure you were with us, Mr. Pro Tem. It was a pretty good trip you might have missed, but we went to a seminar. You really do learn a lot from people from all 50 states. So we went to one on broadband expansion. We're trying to learn how to make Georgia. And we realized we are way ahead of the rest of the country. Their first comments they were saying is, the first thing you need to do is you need to do broadband mapping, because before you get funding, you got to show who's underserved. And all the rest of the states, well, how do you do that? What do you mean, Matt? You know, and we were like, yeah, we did that 2 years ago. We got our results back, and we're continuing to update. So I was very impressed with where we are, that we've been addressing that, and he got the ball rolling. And then we've gone further to allow our EMCs to also offer it, and I expect some of them will testify on Tuesday as we're looking at the update to show some of the creative partnerships that have been done, and the updated maps to show how much of the unserved areas will now, how about that? Mama Gooch's son just walked in. So nice to have you, Mr. Leader. We'll hear to see how we're doing. I also want to find out about all this enormous amount of funding. That was always one of our concerns, is we knew what we needed, but how in the heck are we going to pay for it all? And we're doing really well, making a lot of progress, a lot of bright future ahead. So now that we have our majority leader here with no other issues, Doc Rich, you got anything?
Motion to adjourn.
Wondering, before you dismiss us, if you could sing,
See how I get you.
if you could sing a stanza or two of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
I could, but I need that tambourine accompaniment. So you bring it next time, we'll see what we can do. All right, meeting adjourned. See everybody on Thursday afternoon.